The next disappearance did not wait for belief to settle. It came before doubt had time to put it. By dawn, the city was already whispering again, not loudly, not yet. This time, the whispers moved the way cold air moves through a room, quietly, deliberately, touching everyone before anyone could point to where it began. People did not wake to certainty, they woke to unease. A gate left open too long, a phone ringing unanswered in another compound, a delivery route that ended without explanation. This time, it was a boy. Not a child in the way the city uses the word to soften tragedy. Not small enough for sympathy to come easily. Not old enough for people to say he should have known better. He stood in that dangerous space between old enough to argue with his father about independence, young enough to forget his charger and borrow one without embarrassment. His name was Kunle. People knew him by motion more than memory. The blur of his bike cutting through traffic, the way he leaned forward when he rode, like speed itself owed him money. The smile he wore too easily, as if the world had not yet taught him restraints. He delivered food, parcels, favors, sometimes hope. That evening, he left his house just after prayers, the call still echoing faintly in the air. His backpack was strapped tight against his shoulders, worn but dependable. His phone battery blinked red, 20% and optimism. He told his mother he would be quick. He told his father not to worry. He told himself the city was still awake enough to be safe. "I'll be back before night thickens," he said. Night, of course, does not wait for promises. Hours passed. The city dimmed its lights the way it always did, unevenly, unfairly. Generators coughed alive in richer compounds, while whole streets surrendered to darkness. Kunle rode through it anyway, trusting familiarity more than caution. He had taken those roads before. He had survived worse traffic. He knew which corners to slow at, which shortcuts shaved minutes of time. He never reached home. By morning, his bike was found at the junction near the abandoned cinema. It was not thrown aside. It was not hidden. It stood there politely, leaned against a rusted pole, as if Kunle had stepped away only briefly to take a call, to greet someone, to adjust the strap on his bag. The engine was off. The key still sat in place, obedient, waiting. Anyone could have taken the bike, but no one did. That was what unsettled people most. Nothing was forced. Nothing was scattered. No skid marks. No broken mirror. No sign of struggle loud enough to be respected. Just absence again. The kind of absence that feels intentional. The kind that leaves space where a body should be. The kind that rearranges the family's breathing. And this absence did something dangerous. It did not contradict the city's story. It complicated it. Because Aris was already in custody. Because the city had already chosen a shape for its fear. Because fear, once fed, does not like to be interrupted. It prefers expansion to correction. It prefers new layers to new questions. So the city did what cities do best when truth threatens to slow things down. It adjusted the story. Quietly, quickly. And so beneath that adjustment, the darkness learned something important. Abeni City was willing to believe again. By mid-morning, the tone changed. Not abruptly. Nothing in Abeni City ever changed abruptly, but with the careful awkwardness of people realizing the ground beneath them was no longer firm. Radio presenters who had spoken with confident finality the night before now stumbled over their words. Sentences stretched. Pauses grew longer. Certainty developed cracks. Callers were kept on hold a little too long. News jingles played a little too loudly. And in between, new phrases began to appear, softened, cautious, rehearsed, possibly connected. An expanded investigation, emerging lines of inquiry, more than one suspect. Each phrase acted like a hinge, allowing the story to open wider without admitting it had been wrong. By the time the sun climbed high enough to bleach the tops of buildings, Josh was already back on the bridge. He arrived earlier than usual, because timing mattered. Fear is most obedient when it has not yet eaten breakfast. He had changed his angle. The broken street light, now familiar to his audience, stood behind him like a witness that never spoke. But this time, something else edged into the frame, just enough to be noticed, just enough to be remembered. The abandoned cinema sign. Its letter hung unevenly, some missing, others barely holding on. Paint peeled in long tired strips, exposing older colors beneath. Versions of the city no one admitted to remembering. The sign did not shout, it loomed. History, like darkness, does not need permission to return. Josh adjusted his tripod carefully. He did not rush. He checked the framing twice. He knew what he was doing. When he spoke, his voice was calm but sharpened, like a blade recently honed. Developing situation, he said, eyes fixed on lens. The residents are waking up to troubling news this morning. Another individual has gone missing overnight. He let the words settle. Traffic hummed faintly below the bridge. Somewhere a bus horn sounded. Life continued, unaware it was being rearranged. This raises new questions, Josh continued, lowering his voice slightly, about the scope of the case. Scope? The word did quiet work. It suggested depth, reach, planning. He paused there, not because he lacked information, but because silence makes space for imagination. Viewers leaned closer to their screens. Radios were turned up. Conversations stalled mid-sentence. Sources now suggest, he said carefully, the possibility of an accomplice. The word landed softly. It did not explode, it sits. Accomplice. It spread from mouth to mouth, from phone to phone, carried by the relief of explanation. Because accomplice meant the story did not need to be discarded. It did not need to be corrected or questioned. It only needed to grow. Accomplice meant Harris could still be guilty. It meant the city had not rushed. It meant fear had been right, just incomplete. By the time Josh ended the broadcast, the city had already begun to rearrange its thinking. One man became two. One shadow split into many. The bridge, the cinema, the darkness between them, all of it began to feel connected in ways that made sense only because people wanted it to. Josh packed up slowly, satisfied. Behind him, the broken streetlight remained unlit. And somewhere beyond the frame, the city learned its newest lesson. A story does not need truth to survive, it only needs room. Names floated briefly before settling. They rose and fell in conversation, the way foam rises on dirty water, briefly visible, then gone. Some names were spoken once and abandoned. Others were tested, rolled around mouths, dismissed without ceremony. The city did not linger, it never does. It moves quickly toward whatever feels solid enough to hold fear. But one name struck, Sadiq. It did not arrive with drama, it arrived the way suspicion always does. Quietly, almost politely, slipping into conversation as if it had always been there. Sadiq, a security guard, night shifts, assigned to the old cinema compound 6 months ago, back when the place still pretended to have a future. Before the gates were locked for good, before funding thinned, then vanished, before guards were left to watch empty spaces that no longer needed protection, only witnesses. People began to remember him suddenly, not because he had changed, but because the story now required him to exist. They remembered how he rarely spoke unless spoken to, how he sat alone on plastic chairs during breaks while others clustered together, laughing loudly enough to be seen. They remembered how he charged his phones from shops instead of home, plugging in quietly, waiting patiently, never explaining why. In Abeni City, explanations matter less than habits, and habits once noticed can be turned. Someone said he walked with purpose even when there was nowhere to go. Someone else said he watched too carefully. Small observations added into character. And then came the most useful memory of all. Someone no one could later say who mentioned that Sadiq had been seen arguing with Kunle 2 nights earlier. The details spread fast. Not shouted, repeated. It had happened near the cinema, they said, or maybe closer to the junction, or perhaps near a kiosk with flickering lights. The location shifted slightly with each telling, but the conclusion stayed intact. Argued about money, about delivery access, about passing through places he shouldn't. Those words did the work of precision without the burden of accuracy. No one could remember the exact sentences exchanged. No one could repeat a full line of dialogue, but everyone remembered the tone. Voices raised, gestures sharp, tension thick enough to be noticed. And in a city already primed for fear, tone is more convincing than truth. By afternoon, the argument had grown teeth. Some said Kunle had been warned, others said he had been threatened. A few claimed Sadiq had told him to stay away from the cinema road. Each version felt plausible. Each version made the next disappearance feel inevitable. Sadiq had not defended himself. He had not explained. He had not performed innocence loudly enough to satisfy anyone. And in Abeni City, silence is rarely neutral. It is interpreted. And once interpreted, it becomes evidence. The police did not announce Sadiq as a suspect, not officially. There was no declaration, no press release framed uncertainty, no photograph lifted for cameras the way Harris had been. The system had learned caution. It understood that accusation worked best when it appeared accidental. They only said his name during a briefing once, then again, casually, carefully, like a seed dropped into loose soil, light enough to go unnoticed, deliberate enough to take roots. Routine questioning, an officer said, glancing down at his notes. One of the guards assigned to the abandoned cinema compound. Name, Sadiq. Nothing more. But names, once spoken publicly, do not return quietly. They linger. And then came the items. Not all at once, not dramatically. One at a time, so the city could assemble the meaning itself. First, the helmet. Kunle's helmet. It was found behind the cinema wall, tucked just out of sight, as if whoever placed it there understood both hiding and discovery. Not buried, not destroyed, just concealed enough to be found later. It lay on its side, visor cracked, chin strap loose. Inside it, a faint smear, not blood, not enough to shock, just enough. The kind of mark that suggested contact without explaining it. A scuff, a drag, a moment when balance was lost, when hands reached out and did not find what they expected. This indicates a struggle, someone said quietly. No one argued. The city had learned to respect suggestion. Then came the security logbook. It was presented with the seriousness usually reserved for confession. A thick worn book with dog-eared pages and uneven ink. Proof of routine. Proof of responsibility. Sadiq's handwriting was unmistakable. Neat. Careful. Consistent. His signature stamped the time with bureaucratic precision. 8:17 p.m. The room shifted. Kule had been last seen at 8:10 p.m. 7 minutes. 7 minutes does not sound long when spoken aloud. It barely fills a song, barely stretches across the traffic lights, barely allows a kettle to boil. But 7 minutes is long enough to argue, long enough to threaten, long enough to push someone into silence if you already know where the dark waits. The logbook did not say Kunle's name. It did not mention a confrontation. It did not need to. Time, once aligned, speaks for itself. Questions followed, gentle but pointed. Why was the first entry of the shift so late? Why no patrol notes before then? Why that exact minute? No one asked these questions publicly. They were asked with raised eyebrows. with pauses, with looks exchanged across the room. Josh did not need to exaggerate. He did not need dramatic language or speculation dressed as fact. He simply held the details the way fire holds oxygen. Carefully, patiently, knowing that once the air moved, the flame would take care of itself. 7 minutes, he repeated on air later that day. Voice slow, measured. 7 minutes between the last sighting and the log entry. Viewers can decide for themselves what can happen in 7 minutes. And the city did. The sighting felt good. It felt like control. It felt like progress. No one noticed that the evidence did not accuse, it invited. And the city, already hungry for meaning, accepted the invitation without hesitation. Dairos listened to the broadcast from the van, fingers tightening on the steering wheel until the leather creaked beneath his grip. The radio crackled softly, the presenter's voice steady in the practiced way that suggested reassurance without promising it. Traffic crawled around him, horns, shouts, the impatient rhythms of a city pretending it was not afraid. Another disappearance, another suspect, another explanation offered neatly, like a solution already wrapped. Too neat. The alignment bothered him in a way he could not immediately explain. At the fuel station ahead, he slowed, then pulled over, letting the van idle beside the humming generator. It shimmered above the concrete. A man wiped his windshield half-heartedly. Life continued, unbothered by the shape of fear taking form in the air. Dairos did something he rarely did. He stopped moving. He leaned back in the seat, shut out the noise and began to count. Miriam, the mechanic, the schoolgirl, the rider. He said the names silently, not as a list, but as a test, waiting to see if any of them refused to line up. They did not. Different routes, different neighborhoods, different reasons for stepping outside, different lives, yet the same outcome. His mind moved the way it always did when something felt wrong, not emotionally but structurally. He pictured the city as a map, not of roads but of neglect, broken infrastructure, unfinished places, edges that had been forgotten long enough to become useful. The bridge with its dead street lights, the canal road where drainage never came, the abandoned cinema left behind when attention moved elsewhere, all places where the city thinned, where responsibility ended, where darkness was no longer an accident but a feature. And now, a guard. A man whose job was not to pass through the dark but to inhabit it, to remain awake while others slept, to watch spaces no one else wanted to claim. Someone who understood the rhythms of night, the pauses, the blind spots. Someone who could disappear into the dark without the dark noticing. The logic was sound. And that was the problem. It fit too easily. Real patterns resist interpretations. They fray at the edges. They leave loose threads that do not tie themselves. This one tied itself. Dairos felt something shift. Not fear, exactly, but a sharper thing. Fear usually asks for protection. This asked for attention. For the first time since the disappearances began, his unease focused not on people but on the way people were being arranged. Not on guilt but on convenience. He reached for his phone, then stopped. There was nothing to call yet, nothing to report. Only a quiet understanding forming beneath his ribs. Someone was using the city's broken places, and someone else was teaching the city where to look. The engine hummed steadily beside him, patient, mechanical, indifferent. Dairos stared ahead, the radio still speaking. For the first time, he was no longer listening to the story. He was watching how it was being built. Inside the station, Harriet stared at the logbook longer than necessary. Not because she did not understand what she was seeing, but because she understood it too well. The room around her carried on with its usual indifference. A ceiling fan clicked with every rotation. A junior officer laughed quietly at something on his phone. Paper shuffled. Chairs creaked. The station performed normalcy the way it always did when something important was being missed on purpose. The signature was real. She had seen Sadiq's handwriting on enough routine forms to know it. The loops were careful. The pressure even, no hesitation, no tremor. Whoever signed that page had not been in a hurry. The timestamp matched the format, same ink, same spacing, same bureaucratic obedience. On the surface, the book behaved exactly as it should, and yet something was wrong. Sadiq's shifts began at 7 p.m., not approximately, not unofficially, 7. But the first entry in the logbook started back at half from the page, 8:17 p.m. Harriet's eyes moved instinctively upward, scanning for what should have been there. Nothing. No patrol notes, no equipment check, no arrived on site, no commenced duty, just a blank hour. As if the book itself had slept through the beginning of the night. Harriet leaned closer, lowering her voice without realizing she had done so. An hour was not a small thing on night duty. That first hour was when guards settled in, checked locks, walked perimeters, noted irregularities. It was when routine announced itself. This book had skipped that announcement entirely. Her finger traced the ink of the 8:17 entry. It resisted slightly, as fresh ink does. The page beneath it felt stiff, not softened by time or repeated handling. Fresh, too fresh. She flipped the page carefully, then another, and that was when she saw it. The tear, not ragged, not hurried, clean. Straight down the spine where several pages should have been. The kind of tear made slowly, deliberately by someone who knew exactly how much to remove without drawing attention. Harriet pressed her lips together. Mrs. Pages were louder than missing people. Because pages do not live on their own. She flipped further back. The sequence jumped. Dates skipped. Ink colors changed too abruptly. Someone had edited time. And time, once edited, becomes a weapon. Harriet closed the book gently, as though it might react if startled. She did not look around. She did not call anyone over. She did not make the mistake of wearing suspicion on her face. She had learned better. In this station, truth did not survive announcement. It survived preparation. She stood, carried the logbook to the copier at the far end of the room, and fed relevant pages into the machine slowly. The copier hummed, spat out copies that felt heavier than paper should. She folded them neatly, slipped them into a plain brown file, labeled nothing. Then she returned the logbook to its place on the desk, aligning it exactly as she had found it. No disturbance, no accusation, no trail. Because Harriet was learning. Learning that evidence did not disappear first, it was redirected. Learning that reporting too soon was the fastest way to be ignored. Learning that the system did not punish lies, it punished impatience. She sat back down, resumed typing, her posture unremarkable, her face neutral. But inside her, something added into clarity. This was not sloppy work. This was careful. And whoever had removed those pages had not done so to hide Sadiq's guilt. They had done it to shape time itself. Harriet kept typing. Outside the station, the city was already deciding what the missing hour meant. Inside, one woman began to understand how dangerous an edited night could become. At Peace Shop, the mood had changed. No laughter today, only urgency. People spoke faster, interrupted each other, corrected details that were never stable to begin with. Peace leaned in. They said the guard did it. Sadiq. Night men are dangerous. Asanatu did not respond. She was watching something else. The road. Kule's bike had been found facing home. Delivery riders always turned their bikes toward the next job, unless they planned to come right back. She stood slowly. Peace, she said. Has anyone checked Sadiq's phone? Peace blinked. Why his phone? Asanatu met her eyes. Because everyone disappears, she said, but phones always remember something. By nightfall, Sadiq was invited for questioning. The phrase was delivered with practiced softness, wrapped in politeness, offered as though it were a courtesy rather than a summons. No handcuffs, no raised voices, just a request made in public where refusal would already look like guilt. Sadiq came willingly. He arrived at the station on his own feet, shoulders squared but tense, eyes darting only once toward the olden area where Aris had sat days earlier. He did not ask for a lawyer. He did not ask what this was about. He did not ask because people like Sadiq had learned that questions often made things worse. There was no resistance, no running, no panic loud enough to reassure anyone, just confusion. The kind that settles into the face slowly. When a man realizes he has stepped into a story already written, they took his phone without ceremony, not aggressively, not gently, just efficiently, like something that had always belonged to them. The room was small, windowless, the air thick with the smell of sweat, disinfectant and old paper. A single bulb hummed faintly overhead, its light unforgiving. A junior officer handled the phone, fingers quick, eager. He had the look of someone hoping to be useful, to be seen. His superior stood back, arms folded, letting the moment unfold. Then the officer stopped. "Sir," he said, excitement breaking through restraint. "There is something here." A deleted file, recovered, a voice note. They played it aloud. Kunle's voice filled the room, thinner than anyone remembered it, breathless, unsteady, close enough to the microphone that each inhale crept softly through the recording. Traffic murmured faintly in the background at first. Distant horns, movements, life continuing without concern. Then the noise faded, replaced by quiet. Too sudden, too complete. "Please," Kunle said. The word landed heavily, stripped of bravado, stripped of speed. Just a boy speaking to someone who believed might listen. "I'm not trying to cause trouble," he continued. I will leave." A pause. "I swear I will leave." The timestamp glowed on the screen, 8:14 p.m., 3 minutes before the log entry. 3 minutes before Sadiq's signature declared the night official. The room went still. Not the dramatic stillness of shock, the heavier one. The kind that presses inward. This was better than evidence, better than objects, better than timelines. This was fear with a voice. Something human enough to be believed, something fragile enough to be used. Eyes shifted, conclusions aligned themselves. No one spoke, no one needed to. And yet, Harriet stood near the doorway, arms folded loosely, face composed. She did not react the way the others did. She did not lean forward. She did not exhale sharply. She listened, once, twice. Then she asked quietly, "Play it again." The junior officer hesitated, surprised, but complied. Harriet closed her eyes this time, not to focus on the words. She already knew what they said. She listened beneath them. Under Kunle's breathing, under the pause, under the fear, there it was, a low hum. Steady, unwavering, mechanical. Not traffic, not wind, not insects brushing against a microphone. A generator. Her eyes opened slowly. The cinema's generator had been dead for months. She knew this because she had signed off on the report when it was officially decommissioned. The fuel tank had been drained. The wiring stripped. Should have been silenced there. Instead, recording carried power, electricity, light, continuity, which meant Kunle had not been standing in darkness. He had been standing near a place that was running. Somewhere else, somewhere hidden, somewhere unregistered, somewhere no one had thought to look because no one had been told to. Harriet felt a cold clarity settle into her chest. This voice note did not condemn Sadiq, it pointed away from him. But only if you knew how to listen. She said nothing. She knew better now. Somewhere in the city, another machine was running, another place was lit, another door was open, and someone patient, invisible, methodical was watching how quickly the city accepted direction, watching how easily fear could be thought where not to look. The recording ended. The room breathed again, and the lie, already warmed by belief, prepared to grow. By midnight, Sadiq sat where Haris once had. The city slept again, uneasy but relieved. 2 suspects, 2 stories, 2 containers for fear, but 2 people were still missing, and the city had begun to forget that the hunger had not stopped. It had only learned to wait. I know you enjoyed the story. Ensure to like, subscribe, and tap on the notification bell so you don't miss an upload. Thanks for watching.